What's up, everybody? Today I'm going to talk about how my writing career came to be, and I think I can honestly say that it's a fairly unique story as far as writers go, because I never planned to be a writer when I was growing up. I did like to write certain things, but it was never a career path plan for me. So like I said, writing was sort of a hobby for me, and in the early 2000s, I want to say 2003 or so, maybe 2002, I don't know, I started what would eventually become The Roar of a Dragon, which is the book that I wrote that's going to be published by Rowanvale Books early next year. But I wasn't writing very often. I really, honestly, I can say when I started it, I had no idea what the story was going to be. I just had an idea for the prologue. So I wrote the prologue, and that's pretty much how it started. I began to write bits and pieces over the years, but it was very, very, very slow going. In late 2007, I had been working for Walmart for 6.5 years. There's a lot of bad things said about working at Walmart, and a lot of it is justified, but no bad words come from me. I had a good experience there, and I got along really well with the people and the customers and 98% of the managers that were there. So it was a good experience for me, and I wouldn't have a lot of things that I had today if I didn't work at Walmart. One day in October, I think it was, I remember telling my coworkers I was going to go take a break. And I went out to my car, and I promptly fell asleep for an hour and a half. I remember waking up and knowing something was wrong, like something in my head was wrong. I didn't feel right. And to this day, it's kind of foggy and spotty. I don't remember the whole experience. But I went back and I just punched out. I didn't even tell any management, I just punched out. Then I went back to my car and I called my girlfriend at the time, Kate, and I said, Kate, something's wrong. I don't feel right. And she's like, stay right there, I'm coming to get you. I began to have a lot of dizzy spells. I began to have trouble walking, and just doing normal things it was just difficult for me. The doctors didn't really know what was wrong. I was given time off from work, and my first day back was Thanksgiving of that year. And that went okay because it was only a 4-hour shift. It was fine. The next day was Black Friday, and I was used to pushing myself as long and hard as I could in situations where you really needed to turn the jets up, such as Black Friday or emergency situations or things like that. I would always work harder, and I took pride in those situations because I wanted to be the go-to guy when things went wrong. So Black Friday, I thought I could do the same. I was feeling okay, and 8 hours had gone by and I hadn't taken a break because that's what I used to do and that's what I thought I was capable of doing. But I remember getting really dizzy, and next thing I know, I'm on the floor. I was told later I had crashed into the rack of DVD players and stuff and fallen on the ground. And I was just laying there, and there was one of the customers there happened to be an EMT, I guess, or something, and she was tending to me. Funny moment, though, I was still cracking jokes. I remember laying on the floor and EMT asking me where I was, and the first thing I thought of was that one scene in The Best of the Best when Tommy Lee kicks the pad so hard that Virgil's holding it. It knocks Virgil back and knocks him on the floor unconscious. They asked Virgil if he knew where he was, and he kind of looks over and he goes, I'm on the floor. So that's exactly what I said to the EMT when she asked me, you know where you are? I'm like, I'm on the floor. Just like me to always crack jokes in a situation like that. Anyway, the ambulance came and took me, and it was basically ruled that I had this condition that nobody knew what it was, but I'd worked myself too hard, and I had more time off from work. And then I came back, and I was given very, very light duty. I was given a chair. I was working in electronics at the time, and they gave me a chair to sit in if I had to sit. But I hated that. I really, really hated that because it felt wrong. It felt like I was just, I knew I wasn't taking advantage of the situation, but it felt like I was. And I was also told by management to, if I can't come to work, don't come to work. They didn't need, neither one of us needed any more situations like Black Friday. And eventually, in April of the following year, just as I basically had hit my 7th year at Walmart, I couldn't do it anymore. I was missing, I think I had missed like 2 weeks of work at that time. just 2 weeks straight. I could not go, and Walmart had no choice but to let me go. They had tried to work with me every step of the way, so I can't criticize or anything. They did what they had to do. But things just got worse and worse. I had before I had gotten sick, I had just gotten my own apartment. I had just gotten my own car. For the first time, I was truly out on my own. Like, I had lived in girlfriends' houses and things like that, but this was mine. It was my time. And then I get sick. My primary sent me to EMTs and neurologists, and I had CAT scans done and MRIs and EEGs and all kinds of stuff, and no one could really find an answer. This went on for about 2 more years, and Kate stuck with me every step of the way. Of course, when all was said and done, I had to be an idiot and screw it up, but it is what it is. Eventually, I was sent to physical therapy, and I went in to see the physical therapist. His name was Eric DM. I remember his name to this day because I went in there, he sat me down, he examined my eyes for 10 minutes, and he said, "I know what's wrong with you." And I was like, "What?" The last thing I expected was for him to get it in 10 minutes. And I'm not criticizing the other doctors either. This guy was trained to find things like this. I've been diagnosed with a condition called right unilateral vestibular hypofunction. That's the word I'm looking for. Can you blame me that I forgot one word out of that whole thing? Basically, my right eye, when I look this way, it shakes ever so slightly, and that's apparently enough to throw off my entire equilibrium. So I went through 6 months of physical therapy, and my condition improved. It helped out a lot. And I've also determined since then that stress was a major factor, because it still affects me to this day. I still deal with it, but when I'm in stressful situations, it gets worse. It gets a lot worse sometimes. But anyway, when I was first diagnosed with the condition, I couldn't do anything. I could barely walk around the apartment. I couldn't play with my children like I wanted to, and that was very, very hard. I already suffered from depression, but that just set me into an even more depressive state. So while I really couldn't do much of anything, I turned back to my writing, and I had this book that I had started, and I started thinking I could do something with it. I think so. With little else to do, I sat down, I thought about the story, and it started to come together. Next thing you knew, I was writing, and I just wrote. I started writing, and chapters started getting finished, and the story started coming together, and and that's how my writing started. And then I finished the bulk of it a couple of years later. Things had really gone downhill again, and I'd lost my apartment, my parents had both lost their houses, and I had broken up with Kate, and things were just rough. But I just buried myself even more into my writing. Like, I sunk myself into it, because that was my therapy. That was how I got through that time, was just being completely and totally focused on my writing. And I finished it in 2 more years. I finished it on December 9th, 2011, I think. I think it was 2011 I finished it. But yeah, that's how my writing career started, and now I can truly see myself as a writer, and I can honestly look and say, if I hadn't gotten sick, I would never have become a writer. So it's kind of a double-edged sword, but I never have considered myself disabled, truly disabled, but I do sympathize. I do understand what it's like to not be able to do what you want to do and what you have to do. I was just lucky enough that I had a hidden talent that was there all along, but I didn't know it was there. So yeah, that's how my journey in writing began. Today my condition is improved, but I still deal with it. My neurologist said, you may have to deal with this for the rest of your life, but if you stick with the physical therapy and do the things you have to do, and you should be able to live at least a fairly normal life. And that's pretty much the way it's been. There's no more tears shed here when it comes to that. Everything really truly does happen for a reason. I know it's so cliche, but it does. Something happens and you don't want to think that at the time. You don't want to believe it. People are telling you, but you don't want to hear it. And then a couple years later down the line, you look back and say, yeah, it really did happen for a reason, because if this didn't happen, I wouldn't have this. And it's funny the way things work out. and now I've written a book, which is one of my greatest accomplishments in my entire life. And there's more on the way, and I can't wait to see, what direction I'm going in. I made a lot of good friends in the writing community, and they're all good people. The writing community is very, very friendly and very welcoming, and you ask for help and they offer it to you and they'll give it to you, and it's just it's a very heartwarming community, and I really appreciate it. So yeah, my writing career began from being sick. Obviously I didn't go into a great deal of detail because I want to make you guys watch a half-hour video. And so if you have any questions about anything, feel free to contact me at bthriller@gmail.com. bthriller0110@gmail.com, or you can leave a question in the comments below. I really don't mind talking about it. I just didn't want to drag out the video longer than it had to be. But yeah, that's how this new chapter in my story began. Thank you all for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day.